Well, hi, this is episode 176 of the Guardian Project podcast. I'm your host, Andy, and I'm here to hold the gates.
And I'm your other host, Mike. And not many people have heard about this upcoming Universes Beyond M&M Secret Lair featuring combination cards. The product is tagged melds in your mouth, not in your hand.
Please listen carefully.
And this is the podcast about Commander,
our favorite Magic the Gathering format. And this week we are going to be walking through the pearly gates and talking about Maze's End. So it's all things gates and all things Maze's End alternate win condition.
Yeah, we're going to visit every single gate. We're going on a trip, right? We're going to visit
It's a vacation.
them all. It is a real vacation.
Mhm.
You got 10 stops. That's like
two different...
that's a long cruise. That's like a 2-week cruise
Yeah.
or like a road trip.
At least two different planes of existence.
If you're going to all 21,
We're going to all
then
the
you're going to
gates.
3 different
Planes of existence? Okay.
Or wherever AFR takes place.
That's
And then you got down here and they got right. But before we do that, we have some people we want to thank.
Yeah.
And that is all of you listeners and especially all of our patrons. If you want to support us, you can head to patreon.com/guardianprojectpod and donate for any dollar amount.
And you can find us online on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. If you hop on over to Google and search for Guardian Project Podcast, you will find us. And if you want to send us an email, you can go ahead and do that at guardianprojectpod@gmail.com.
So the Secret Lair 30th anniversary countdown came out as of the time of recording, it was today.
Yes.
And it was sold out in like 45 minutes.
Mhm.
And it felt very much like the War of the Spark Mythic Edition all over again.
I saw some messages and stuff online about people's like, oh, I don't know if my order went through or if it got canceled or what. And yeah, no, you're right. I did get those vibes.
Yeah, I got 1 email confirmation and 2 credit card charges.
Nice.
So I'm just gonna watch. Maybe I'll get a second email confirmation.
Sure.
That'd be great. But I do show it in my order history, so hopefully that arrives on time. I'm excited. But I did see quite a bit of that. But I also had tweeted that if I didn't get an order, I was totally fine taking a consolation uncut sheet of these really cool cards. I would frame it as well.
That would be I would like to see what a Secret Lair uncut sheet looks like if they print like 12 Secret Lairs at a time and the uncut or if it would be one Secret Lair repeated 50 times or something.
Yeah,
like
if you look at like the War of the Spark one, it's like the same cards just restarted later in the line. So, but it was funny. There were other people that were like, you know what, I would also go for that uncut sheet.
Yeah,
so
why
I
not?
guess if you're not going to get my order, refund me. It's not that big of a deal. I'll take an uncut sheet. And we also have a new patron, Lynn Frank. Thank you so much. We're in a graphic design course this semester.
Okay.
So we're going to need help with that. I don't do graphic design. Well, I'm learning Photoshop. As some of you may have seen in some of our thumbnails, I figured out how to do an outline on a person and it only took me like 6 times and also calling Chris Wolf to tell me what I did wrong. So I have been learning Photoshop. So Lynn, you're in our Photoshop class with us.
Yep. In terms of group projects in Photoshop, it's like you can't really work on the same canvas very well, so everyone does their own thing, but you have to match a theme.
And you pick the best one.
Yes, definitely have to
Yeah,
pick
you
the
all
best
do
one.
it, and then you show each other how to do it, and then you submit the assignment.
Maybe you want to combine them. You could Frankenstein your projects together at the end.
Yeah.
And us. I mean, us. This is us. This is our project.
All of us together. No, you take your own photo. Like you take a photo, and then you're gonna make one YouTube thumbnail.
Okay.
So you just have to give someone. You're working in the left side, someone's on the right, and someone's in the middle, and you just put them together, and you hope they work.
It just kind of reminds me of those pictures you saw of like there's like you put an average person's face and you have 50 of them overlap and or 50 people's faces overlap and it becomes an average person's face and then it just looks exactly like me because I'm just like an average looking white dude or whatever. That's what it would end up being.
Okay. All right. Well, I think it's time for us to call the Gatewatch. Gates. We're talking about Maze's End. Maze's End is an alternate win condition. The card is a land. It enters the battlefield tapped. It has tap to add 1 colorless to your mana pool. And then it also has pay 3 and tap it, return Maze's End to its owner's hand, search your library for a gate card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. And if you control 10 or more gates with different names, you win the game. I love alternate win cons. Have you ever played with Maze's End?
No.
But you played against it quite
I've played,
a bit.
Yeah, I play against Maze's End so much. Never played with it, and haven't even drafted it in your cube or anything, even though it is technically a draftable thing.
It's an archetype,
Yeah.
and no one's ever won. It was drafted once, and someone got I think at the time there were 11 gates. They never got there, unfortunately. No, Maze's End. I've had a Maze's End deck, I would say, for a couple years, ever since Niv-Mizzet Reborn came out.
So War of the Spark.
Yeah, so we got Niv-Mizzet Reborn, and then I kept it a Ravnica themed deck at first. It was just cards from Ravnica, and then I realized I was playing like Maze's End on hard mode that way.
Definitely.
So I said, well, let me switch this out, and I started adding cards that would just go get gates or would just synergize better with 2-color themes, bring to light, just generic good cards.
And that's kind of a tough thing, and we'll talk about it a little bit later when we talk about how to search for your gates and all of the 1-color options to search for your gates that you don't necessarily want to put in your Niv-Mizzet deck.
Yeah, it's tough, but I have enjoyed playing this a lot. I've had very good results without spoiling everything that is going to be talked about, honestly, in like, I can't believe it's like 7 weeks now at the end of your show. I've had good results, very good results with Niv-Mizzet Reborn gates since we've gotten all of the new gates. Nice. So let's talk about the gates that we currently have that we can play with. The original gates came out in the Return to Ravnica block. Each represented a guild pairing, giving us 10 2-color gates. They all enter the battlefield tap. So these are the named guilds: Azorius Guild Gate, Izzet Guild Gate, Golgari Guild Gate, 1 for each of the guilds.
And then we also are, when we go back to Ravnica, for the most recent Ravnica sets we got with Guilds of Ravnica, Ravnica Allegiance, and War of the Spark, we got one brand new gate there, and that is Gateway Plaza. And this is the one where you have to pay 1 mana when it comes in. Otherwise, you have to sacrifice.
Yeah, it's like Trans Guild Promenade, but gate. So probably my least favorite gate, not gonna lie.
It's not a great one.
I don't really like that gate. And then we had Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate, which gave us 9 more gates. They gave us the Thriving Gates, which are named after the Thriving lands that came out in Jumpstart. So they come in tapped. They tap for a specific color, but when they enter, you choose another color, and then it's just a gate that taps for the one printed on it and whatever you chose. And then 4 other gates that each had a unique ability. 1 is a creature pump. 1 is token generation, treasure token generation. Another makes all of your gates enter untapped. And then finally, the namesake Baldur's Gate, which is kind of like Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, but for gates, which is a very good gate. I really liked all the gates that we got in Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate.
Notably, that's the only legendary gate that there is. And I actually had just a quick sidebar. Do you run that legendary land in Niambi, and is there space for it?
Battle for Baldur's Gate?
It's just a colorless legendary land.
I don't, because there's too many other colorless legendary lands.
Fair enough.
I need all the color mana I could get.
But there is one more gate that we got in Dominaria United, and that is the Thran Portal, which is a gate where you can choose what color it taps for when it enters the battlefield. But it is a pain land, so it's gonna hurt you a little bit.
You know, this is the one I have not added this to my gate deck yet, only because I've only played it 10 times since I put it back together, which, only 10 times does sound funny, because that's actually that's a lot. That's a lot of times. But it enters tapped. It's a fast gate. It's like a fast basic gate. So it enters tapped unless you control 2 or other fewer lands, which that's tough if you get it late in the game and you don't have something that's making them untapped. But it also is only 1 land type. So you don't get to choose 2. It's going to be like a plains gate or a mountain gate. It's not 2 colors. So it's tough. But if you are looking just to max your gates, that will round you out. I say round you out because it's an odd number at 21. 21 total gates to play. I run 20 in my gate deck. The only one that I don't run is Thran Portal, and I do not have a problem keeping up. And I think it's because of the way that gate decks function.
Sure.
They're playing for the late game, and they just have a lot of good cards in them. And I don't think it matters which of the top gate commanders that you're playing, or what, the strategies are they're just like good cards. And if you make it through your whole vacation and you have in fact visited all 10 gates, you had a successful vacation. Otherwise, you just had a good time.
Hopefully you had a good time. I hope you did.
Yeah. So should you run every gate in a gate deck? That's the question I think we want to talk about. And I think the answer is You do, because I've experienced it firsthand, having one land blown up or two of them milled. And until we had Commander Legend Battle for Baldur's Gate, we only had 11 gates that were legal if you played a 5-color commander. And the number of times that I had to rely on the Simic Tameo from War of the Spark to return a card from your graveyard back to your hand, or to rely on a card like Regrowth to just get a card back, it was very stressful, and
Sure.
and it didn't feel fun when someone was on incidental mill. Just not even mill, because if someone said I'm playing mill, I wouldn't play gates because it's too difficult.
Sure.
But I don't stress about gates now because I have 20 of them.
That's pretty nice.
So you mill 5, you destroy 2. I'm still good. It's still in this pile or in my hand.
Yeah, I remember playing your gates deck before all the Baldur's Gate gates came back out and stuff, and there were a lot of dead draws when you had, like, when you draw a card now with having 20 gates, it's either going to get you closer to a Maze's End or it's going to be a spell for the most part.
Yeah.
There's what, 15, 17 other lands maybe in the entire deck. And you also mentioned that you are setting up for late game. And I understand why you say that. You know, you kind of have a lot of a control aspect to it because you have your alternate win conditions. I think a lot of alternate win conditions are like that. You control up until you win. But at the same time, I did look at my logs a little bit here for when I've lost to your Maze's End wins. And I do think they do happen between turns 7 and 10 still.
That is crazy,
Yeah.
because I don't track that. So Mike does. So I will have to. We'll talk about that. I think we need to spend time on that show.
Yeah, the last time you did play that and you won with it. I think all, like, for lack of a better term, everything was in the cards. But I think you ended up winning on the end of turn 6, right before turn 7,
which was crazy
like
because I think what I did was I ramped on 2, 3, 4, and then I had the All-Star in the deck. And we'll talk about some All-Stars when we talk about these. But like Gretchen Titchwillow, I think is by far the best card that I could possibly play in a Gates deck. She is a 0/4 that has pay 4. You draw a card and you can put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. I left 4 mana up. If you go back and watch, I think probably our last stream with Niv Mizzet, it got to the person who was just before me and they go, oh wait, we lost.
Yeah.
They knew that I had Maze's End in my hand. I already had 9 gates out, and I Gretchen Titchwill it. I drew, put Maze's in at the end of my opponent's turn. Then on my turn, I untapped and I just activated it, which got me my 10th gate. So there's a lot of utility that we have gotten for Maze's End.
Definitely.
And I don't think that it's a dead win condition. I think it's actually very fun, and you can run whatever you want in the deck alongside like ramp spells and just have fun. So I know that mine is also not the most popular of the gate commanders. So my experience is a little different, but that's how I play it.
So on top of those 21 legal gates, though, there is also Thespian Stage, Vesuva, and Mirage Mirror that could give you more gates, but those don't help you into the Maze's End win condition because they have to be differently named.
They have to be different name gates.
Unless you play with stickers. And you make but stickers can only go on non-lands, so it won't work. You'd have to make it. Yeah, no, there's not a way to do it.
Is it Eldrazi Gate? Is it Eldrazi Gate? You know, that's really funny.
Yeah.
No, so I don't run anything. I'm not making extra copies like with Orvar. I'm not doing any of that. But there's kind of a lot that goes into making gate decks work. So let's talk with things that work really, really well with gates. Because the goal here is to get 9 gates and a Maze's End untapped with 3 mana available. So that's all you're doing here, right? Your plan is get 9 gates out.
Survive to that turn, I suppose. But yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So you have to have 9 because Maze's End will grab the 10th and then you will win. So you need to get 9 and then it counts. I mean, you could treat it like 10. So we need to find lots of gates. So there's a couple, like Circuitous Route, that will search for gates directly to the battlefield. So Circuitous Route is a sorcery for 3 and a green. So search your library for 2 basic lands and or gate cards. Put them onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle your library. I play this. It's great. Can't complain.
Yeah, and you get a very similar spell with Explore the Underdark. Also being able to grab gates or basic lands and put them onto the battlefield. But then you also get to gain the initiative or explore the dungeon with that one, which, just some added value, find some basics, draw some cards, scry some stuff.
Yeah, I did add that. I have enjoyed exploring the Undercity, but I mostly just don't know what's in the Undercity because I don't run any other Undercity cards.
Like I know you obviously there's creating treasures and drawing cards inside of it. The very first one is you search for a basic land and put it in your hand, and the very last one is you get to look at like the top 10 cards of your library and put a creature from among them into play, put 3+1/+1 counters on it, and it gains hexproof until your next turn.
For me, it was just an added perk, and people were happy that they could steal it. In that game I played it, I never got it back. Mm-hmm. I didn't really actually care at all about making it through. I just wanted the gates that I was getting, and someone else was happy because I gave them the ability to dungeoneer through the Undercity.
And the initiative is great because you don't need to build into it to continue to start, because it just keeps triggering.
And then there's some cards that we can tutor gates directly to your hand, like Open the Gates, a sorcery for a single green mana. Search your library for a basic land or gate card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle.
Yeah, we have great Gate Creeper Vine, which is a 2-mana 0/2 plant with Defender. When it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for a basic or gate, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle.
And then District Guide is an Elf Scout creature for 2 and a green. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land or a gate card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your library. So I can't complain.
Yeah, we also have a brand new. This is from Baldur's Gate, but this is maybe the newest gate fetch land or fetchable thing here, and this is on an artifact, Navigation Orb for 3 generic mana. It's an artifact you can pay 2 generic mana to sacrifice it and search your library for up to 2 basic lands and or gates, reveal those cards, and you put one onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand. So it's Cultivate.
Cultivate.
Yes.
Oh, I like that name. I do run this. I don't think I've actually used it yet, but Navigation Orb's in there. It is pretty mana intensive. If you're saying that I won on turn 7, this costs 3 and then also 2 to activate. So it's good. It's on the higher end of, or the slower end of searching for gates here. But you know what? We will take them all because not every game is going to turn out successful. You might have 13 gates like I did one time before you find Maze's End because you can't find anything to get the stupid Maze's End.
But then you find Maze's End and everything's fine, right?
Yeah. And then you play it tapped and everybody looks at you and goes, we have to kill you right now.
No, we have to kill you or we have to Chaos Warp that away.
We have to Chaos Warp it away. Now, we do need to find Maze's End specifically. So let's talk about searches that can get any land like Crop Rotation. Fantastic instant speed spell, 1 green mana as an additional cost to cast the spell, sack a land. You probably got a basic. You probably have something you might not necessarily need. Sacrifice it. Search your library for a land. Put it onto the battlefield and shuffle your library. This one's great if you have Crop Rotation in hand, some generic land, and you have your 9 gates. You're going to do this at the end of somebody's turn. They won't see it coming. Crop Rotation is top tier.
And I know it is implied, but if you're dumb like me, Maze's End is not a gate. I thought it was for a really long time.
Yeah, it's not. It's not a gate itself.
Yeah, and that's why we have these cards in here to search. So Template Discovery is one of my favorite ramp cards in green. This one allows you to search for any land in your library and put it on the battlefield. And then each opponent can also search their library for a land, and each opponent who does allows you to search for a land from your library and put it on the battlefield.
And we will. It's fine.
As long as your opponents don't run Wasteland and Strip Mine and all that, everything will be totally fine, and you're about to ramp yourself to a Maze's End and 3 more gates, and everything's going to be great.
Exactly. I like Sylvan Scrying personally. 1 and a green, sorcery speed. Search your library for a land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your library. So this one doesn't go to the battlefield, but guess what? I can still get it.
Hour of Promise is a ramp card that I run in Lands Matter and non-Lands Matter decks because it's a 5-mana sorcery that allows you to search for 2 of any lands in your library, put them on the battlefield tap. Doesn't matter what those lands are. There is an upside if you control 3 or more deserts. When those lands come into play, you get 2/2 black zombie creature tokens, but I've never put deserts in a deck. You have a desert deck, though.
I have a desert deck. Hour Promises in there, but it's not going to do anything in your gates deck. Next is a creature, Elvish Reclaimer, a 1/2 elf warrior for a green. It gets +2/+2 as long as there's 3 or more lands in your graveyard. In this strategy, you're really hoping that your gates are not in your graveyard, but you can pay 2 and tap it, sacrifice a land, search your library for a land, and put it onto the battlefield tapped. So you can grab any gate that you want. If you just need a lot of mana, grab Baldur's Gate. If you need Maze's End, though, these are specifically there to get that card. Maze's End can slowly ramp you into the Maze's End win, so it's still usually the right option to grab Maze's End.
Definitely. We already talked about how we are trying to go a little bit into the later game and play some control. So why not ramp and control at the same time with a card like Pier's Whim? For 3 and a green, you can have for each player you choose, friend or foe. So you can also use this political to try to get someone on your side. For each friend, they search their library for a land, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle their library. And each foe sacrifices an artifact or an enchantment they control.
Yeah.
Love it. I don't see this card played at all, though.
I don't run this. I don't think that I've ever seen this card run either. It's very good. Or you just want a giant creature with reach. You can play Ulvenwald Hydra, 4 green. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. And when it enters, you search for a land, you put it onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle. Simple as that.
A lot of people know what this card is, but maybe don't know that it can grab lands, and that's Wargate. Wargate is a sorcery for X, green, white, blue. So search your library for a permanent card with converted mana cost X or less, put it into play, and then shuffle your library.
It does say permanent.
Yeah.
So you can get a land for X equals 0?
Mm-hmm. No problem. So
that's pretty good.
A 3 mana, find your Maze's End.
3 mana, find your Maze's End. And then finally a sorcery. We're reaping and then we're sowing, which is 4 mana. You choose one, destroy target land, or search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. It has Entwine for 1 and a green. So you can pay 6 mana and do both, but you could just pay 4 and go get yourself your Maze's End.
I've also never seen this card played.
I've never seen it played, but it's specifically, and I think this is why, is I'm playing a 5-color Gates deck, and I don't need all these monocolor cards, because I also built mine around like guild synergy. So I'm also trying to draw as many cards off of Niv Mizzet Reborn. So I split the strategy, and maybe that's the plan. Which one's worse?
Yeah.
Playing against all these really good cards I threw in that are 2-color, or oops, he's almost a Maze's End. That's the plan. Confusion. It's total confusion. But the 2 best cards that I think we've got are, first, Reshape the Earth. Fantastic card that came out in Commander Legends for 6 green, 9 mana, which seems like a lot. You search your library for up to 10 land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. So if you already have your Maze's End, if you have the mana to reshape the earth and then activate Maze's End, you just win after you cast the spell.
Definitely.
It's great. You can also grab Maze's End off of this.
And if you want to do it maybe a turn earlier or something, maybe you'll be able to do it with Escape Shift.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so instead of just finding all the brand new lands, in this case, you would sacrifice any number of lands to search your library for up to that many land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. So, filter all your basics into gates plus a Maze's End, and then win the game.
Win the game. Now, extra land drops is fantastic when you're playing gate decks.
Yes.
You need to just, because your gates are coming in tapped, so you need to get as many in as you can, because you need to get as much mana as you can to play the bigger spells. One of my favorite, Growth Spiral, pay blue and a green, instant speed, draw a card. You can put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. Really good stuff.
Yeah, I know that there are, a majority of all these cards are in at least green, right? Green.
They are.
Plus
And
red
fortunately,
sometimes,
in the top commanders we're going to talk about,
Sure.
2 of them are 5 colors, and then 1, spoiler alert, it's 3 colors. It's Sultai, because it's a deck for gates. These cards, most of them are Simic as well, which works in all of them.
Yeah.
Because you can run them in the Sultai deck.
I was just curious looking down the list if there were any non-greens, because there is a couple colorless options you can play too. Maybe not the most efficient, but Walking Atlas for 2 generic mana. It's a 1/1 construct. You can tap it to put a land from your hand into play. Or Girper Ori, which is a 4 mana artifact that allows all players to play an additional land on each of their turns.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it back. I know I mentioned it, but Gretchen Titchwellow is an all-star, a creature that lets you draw a card and put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. The goal here is to put on your blinders. You're not going to care about what anyone else is doing. You're going to just put out gates, and you're going to try to win with gates. But gates come in tapped, and that's not really fun, because sometimes you need the mana right away.
Yeah.
So you want to run cards like Amulet of Vigor, which is an artifact, and it says if a permanent will enter the battlefield tapped, you untap it.
Now, there are a few other effects out there that can do something similar as Amulet of Vigor, and I wanted to pick your brain a little bit and see how your feelings were on cards like Archelios Lagoon Mystic. So this is a 4-mana turtle shaman for 1 in Sultai, 1 black, green, blue. You get a 2/4 that says as long as Archelios Lagoon Mystic is tapped, other permanents enter the battlefield tapped, and as long as it is untapped, other permanents enter the battlefield untapped. So using him as an untapped creature to have your gates come in untapped, there is still the downside of now your opponent's stuff comes in untapped, or you can play into
That's an
it.
upside.
Well, upside for your opponents, but not necessarily for you. But then you could play into the Archelios, have it untapped for yourself, tap it at the end of your turn, and have all your opponent's stuff come in tapped. Maybe that's a feels bad moment. So I wanted to pick your brain on, do you play Archelios and why not?
No, I don't. I'm running a 2-color deck, so it feels really bad to have 3-color cards because I can't get them off of Niv-Mizzet Reborn, although I've got plenty of mono green cards. The only reason that I'm running a 3-color card like Nine Fingers Keen in my deck is just because it is a Gates deck and I can do it. I don't like it personally because a lot of these Gates decks or at least mine that I play and ones that I've seen, I'm running a lot of board wipes, so it just doesn't really make sense for me to do that when I'm ultimately looking to draw a Supreme Verdict or something to just blow up the board anyway.
Okay.
I don't run that myself, but there's no reason I wouldn't run that if I was running Nine Fingers Keen.
Right. So but Nine Fingers digs for gates. So there's a reason.
It digs for gates, but it's also in Sultai, and
True.
you're not running the same package, right?
Yes.
If you're doing
True,
a 5-color deck, I think mine's going to look way different than a Sultai deck.
That's very true.
I would run that there, but
so Seaborn Muse would then run into a similar issue with the board wipes and stuff too, which doesn't necessarily do exactly the same thing. It untaps your stuff on your other opponent's turns, but that could help you with early Maze's End triggers and stuff. But Wilderness Reclamation as an enchantment would survive.
So I run both Seaborn Muse and Wilderness Reclamation specifically because I run cards like Gretchen Titchwillow, which I can activate every single turn. And if you can get an extra land drop with Maze's End, you can activate Maze's End, return it to your hand, get a gate, and then you can put a gate into play with some other card. Like there's some things that if you can like get the pieces of the puzzle together, you can be dropping Maze's End on other people's turns.
Yes.
And it's pretty cool.
And
so
then,
I do run
then
those.
untap it and then
and your friends go, oops, he's at 5, 6, 7, 8. No, oh, he's at 8. His turn. Is he going to get to 10? And then you're hoping.
Yeah.
And if you look at your hand and you have 1 tutor for a gate, you're golden. If you look at your hand, you go, shoot, I got nothing.
Draw cards. You got Niv-Mizzet.
You leave all your mana up and you make everybody think that you've got something really, really good, when in reality you're sweating because you just need 1 more gate.
And the feel bad when you cast Niv-Mizzet just looking for a spell to hope you find more gates, but then you reveal 10 gates. Oof.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
You do. Now, the other thing is you have to protect your gates once you have them. We are big proponents of targeted land destruction, Ghost Quarters, Field of Ruin,
Chaos Warp, Generous Gift.
They're great. And
Beast Within? Hit lands? Maybe? I don't remember.
You look that up while I talk
will.
about the first card, though, which is Veil of Summer. It's an instant speed for 1 green spell that says draw a card if an opponent casts a blue or black spell this turn. Spells you control can't be countered. You and permanents you control gain hexproof from blue and black until end of turn. This one's a little specific, so if someone is using a land to remove your card, you're not going to get around it, but I prefer Heroic Intervention, another instant speed spell. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible. So someone goes to destroy that land? No, you don't, actually. I don't want you to.
I'm back with the notes on Beast Within. It destroys target permanent, so we're definitely destroying lands with that one too.
Perfect.
And then we have Lazotep Plating, which is an instant speed for 1 and a blue that has the upside of amassing for 1, so you do get a 0/0 that you could put a +1/+1 counter on it, so you basically get a 1/1 zombie.
You got a blocker.
And it says you and permanents you control gain hexproof until end of turn, so any of those targeted spells, get those out of here.
Get out of here. Now, I see you wrote down some notes here asking me if I'm curious about Terra Eternal or Tomic, Distinguished Advocist, or Sacred Ground. Cards that I typically run in my Noyandar deck.
Yes.
I'm not.
Okay.
They give lands indestructible, or if Tomic is out, it says that your lands can't be targeted specifically. I think they're great. If you want to build a Gates deck, you have all these options.
Right.
I am having trouble changing things because like the one time that like that one card did that really good play, it's like, no. it's too good. Can't remove it. And it's like, well, Andy, it actually just worked really well that one time. I go, no, I'm not changing it.
Mhm.
But Tomic's fun. And I always have good memories of this card because I went to get it signed at MTG Vegas last year by Johannes Voss. And when I brought it out to be signed, he goes, do you actually run this? And I go, well, I have it in a cube. And he goes, that's not a very good card, right? And I go, not really. He goes, okay. And he signed it. And then I laughed and I walked away. So that's all I think of when I think of Tomic, is that even the artist was like, this is not very good, right? No,
it's okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
I mean, in the right situations, I think it's a pretty cool toolbox creature card to go against other like lands matters, like Gitrog decks and stuff like that.
Sure,
so they can't target their lands. But I imagine if any of these options had a second color in them, they'd be in your Niv Mizzet Gates deck.
Yeah,
like,
if they were
hands
Azorius or Selesnya, I absolutely would be grabbing them. But it does feel really bad to reveal the top 10. You have like 2 basics, 3 mono green cards, and then you get like 2 because you revealed 2 Azorius and 2 Grok. You're like, oh, that felt really bad. So I try to maximize that, so I'm not running too many monocolored cards in my version.
Okay. And now there is one other card here that just coincidentally has value in a Gates deck, and I don't know if people run it or not, but Field of the Dead cares about different named lands that you control. If you control 7 or more different named lands, then every time a land enters the battlefield under your control, you get to make a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So you're already trying to put 10 different named Gates on the battlefield. So why not for one of your non-gate lands run a Field of the Dead?
It's colorless.
It is
and
colorless.
I'm running a 5-color deck. That's the only reason. But
Okay.
if you have one, it's kind of an expensive land.
It is. It's not too cheap, like $20.
It's a great card. So if you're looking to run a Field of the Dead, you can get a bunch of blockers out too, which is needed when people are attacking you as you're on your vacation, which is like not very appreciated. Okay. I did not want that. Let's talk about the top 3 gate commanders on EDH Rec and see what they might have in common. Number 3 is Niv Mizzet Reborn, which, funny enough, I did not expect to be number 3.
Mhm.
I don't know where I thought it was going to be. I thought this was maybe a less unique commander.
Okay.
And now you can't look up Maze's End. You're actually looking up Maze's End as a card. It shows the top commanders. And then when you go to those commanders, you're looking at the land theme.
Yes.
Is what you're looking at here. So Niv Mizzet has 527 land themed decks, which is crazy. I did not expect that many. If you go to the Niv Mizzet deck, there's 144 specifically that are just land themed. But this one's a little unique in that it's looking for a lot of 2-color cards. So General Ferris Rockrick, but some of the top cards, Uro Titan of Nature's Wrath, that one's really great because you can play it, you can draw a card, you can put lands onto the battlefield. Solid addition in a Mizzet deck. And Bring to Light's also great. So you're already playing 5 colors, so you converge for 5. You can search for an instant or sorcery. I'm usually looking, honestly, for like Circuitous Route or Explore the Underdark. If I'm doing for 4 different color mana, I'm going to get 2 gates no matter what. I'll do it. But it's great.
I am glad to see that there is more than just land ramp being built into some of these decks too. Like the very first card that I see in top cards is Fabro Elder, a 3-mana Tree Folk Druid 0/0 that gets +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control, and it has vigilance and taps for each color among permanents you control. You add 1 mana of that color. So we talked about like that Reshape the Earth, how it was a 10-mana spell, 9-mana spell, and you're like, you're already going to be at your gates by the time you get there, but you are playing ramp outside of just your lands, and you're going to be able to cast those larger mana spells that way.
Yeah, if you already have Niv Mizzet out, Fabro Elder just taps for 5 mana. It's wonderful. And it's in 2 colors because it's green-white. This is why I play this version of this card. Tatyova Benthic Druid is also really great. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life and draw a card. Tatyova does Tatyova things. It's great because all you're looking to do is just draw cards. The thing that Niv Mizzet has that might be a little different is that it relies on different types of board wipe spells. This one is running things like Merciless Eviction specifically, or Supreme Verdict, whereas one of the commanders is specifically board wipes and the other one is not a 5-color deck. So this one I'm actually looking to just fully board wipe, but not too many, because then it's not fun for anyone.
All right, so perfect transition. We'll talk about number 2 on the list here, which is Child of the Table, Child of Alara. Child of Alara is a 5-mana, 6/6 avatar for white, blue, black, red, green with trample that says when Child of Alara dies, destroy all non-land permanents. They can't be regenerated.
This was the one that I think most people used to look at playing as a Gates deck. The problem is, I mean, it does what it says. You're destroying all non-land permanents, so you sacrifice Child of Alara or run targeted removal, remove your own Child of Alara, and then you're kind of just setting the table back a lot.
Yep.
And it doesn't seem very fun for most people, which is really the reason why I'm not running it. It's not fun to watch 8 board wipes on stream, which is, you know, primarily where we're playing.
Sure.
And they make games go really, really long. And I think the sweet spot that we've talked about is around like 80 to 90 minutes. You know, an hour, you know, just under an hour and a half to an hour and a half game is great. I love an hour game.
Yeah.
Sometimes they feel too fast.
Sure.
But sometimes you get in at an hour and you've still already gone 9 turns because everybody just kind of knew what they were going to do. Child of Alara decks sometimes are board wipe, play a gate, pass. But Child of Alara gets reanimated. So they're not even putting it in the command zone. It can sometimes run reanimate spells. So it's got like a really different package than an Niv Mizzet deck.
Yeah, I might even care about the graveyard a little bit more, bringing stuff back. I see they're playing stuff like Soul of Windgrace in here, so they're planning on pitching their lands and everything. And I've never played against a Gates Child of Alara deck before. I've only played against Child of Alara maybe a handful of times, and I remember one time someone playing a Wheel of Green and White. I forget what that was.
Wheel of Sun and Moon.
Yeah, and that one prevents death triggers from happening.
So
that Child of Alara game was extremely tolerable for me. It was a good time, but you know, we talked about how Gates is trying to get to the late game, and who are we to fault the player playing I can get to the late game from my command zone, don't you worry.
Yeah, and I this one has Child of Alara has over 1,000 land themed decks on EDHREC. So there's a lot. If you're looking at just like the high synergy cards, they're like all identical to pretty much every other one. This one does run Cultivator Colossus, which is nice to see because the Child of Alara decks is probably running way more lands than the others. And it can also take advantage of the MDFCs.
I saw those and I was just about to ask you, do you run MDFCs in your Gates?
I don't, because I already have 21 lands. Well, 20 because I'm not running the Thran Portal, but I have 20 that are already coming in tap. So if I don't get Gone Gate, which is the one that says all gates enter untapped, or an Amulet of Vigor or something, I'm already going that slow.
That's
I just don't have. When I say don't have time, I'm going to run out of time because they're going to get me before that happens. But I also like Oracle of Moldiah. I'm not running that, but Oracle of Moldiah works where you can play an additional land on each of your turns. Oh, yeah. Exploration's great. Burgeoning, cards like that, you can run those. If you're just looking to drop extra lands, Courser of Kruphix, or even AC Tyrant of Gyre Strait, these are all really good options.
I see cards in here like Dryad of the Elysian Grove, but I imagine if I go to the utility lands section or anything like that, I'm not going to find the World Tree to help fix your mana. So is mana fixing not a problem? The reason Elysian Grove is in this deck is just for the extra land drop? Like, do you run into issues with mana fixing?
With the Thriving Gates being added, I haven't had an issue since I put the deck back together.
Nice. Very nice.
I did used to say, oh, I only have 1 blue and I also need 2 white, but the white that I need is on the Azorius land, so I don't actually have blue now because you have to, each of the lands so I have to, it's the one deck where I have to actually set lands in piles and go, these 5 are being spent on this. Do I have enough left to also play this? And that's what I'm usually doing when my opponents are taking their turns, because it does require a lot of board management when all of your lands tap for 2.
Definitely.
It's really good. But the World Tree is in fact in mine.
Okay.
I don't want to have to worry about it. I also run Chromatic Lantern.
Okay.
Because then it just says, oh, don't worry about your lands. They all tap for everything.
Do you happen to run any gods to make any use of the activated ability off of the world tree to find any number of gods in your library and put them on the battlefield?
Not a single god.
I couldn't find a god that really cared about lands, really, so I didn't really know if it existed. I do know when searching for some cards that were trying to be able to fetch up gates to your hand or to the battlefield, I came across Kura, the Boundless guy from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty that has a death trigger to search your library for up to 3 land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand. I see them. At first, I wasn't sure. I'm not really a big fan of lands to hand. I understand the necessity in a Gates deck. I like lands to the battlefield. But at the same time, in a Child of Alara deck, you can control when that death happens because your Child of Alara can destroy your own Kura and be able to get your lands exactly when you want them to. You'll be able to start playing them and recover immediately afterwards. So I think even lands to hand might have a better place here in a Child of Alara deck versus some of these others.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the top gate commander. And this one, I was not actually surprised at all. It makes total sense, which is Nine Fingers Keen. So this card just came out. Brand spanking new, 2022. It is a Sultai Gates commander. So a 4/4 human rogue for 1 black, green, blue. Has menace, which is great. Ward is pay 9 life. So probably never going to get targeted. That's just it's a quarter of your life. By the time you actually go to target Nine Fingers King, you've probably already lost a life to a shock land or a fetch land or just someone swinging at you with the small creature. So that is now becoming a quarter of your life.
Oh yeah.
And Nine Fingers Keen is, I think, the unique take on Gates here. Whenever Nine Fingers Keen deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 9 cards of your library. You may put a gate from among them onto the battlefield. Then if you control 9 or more gates, put the rest into your hand. Otherwise, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So you're losing a lot of gates, which stresses me out because you're only in 3 colors. So you cannot play gates that have white or red on the card at all. And so
that's 12 legal gates in Sultai colors.
So we have 12 legal gates. That's going back to how it used to feel with only having 11 gates, which is if someone removes 1 or mills 2 or exiles 2 or whatever it is, you have to have another win condition. With Niv Mizzet, it's already a large creature.
Yeah.
So you can swing for combat damage because it's a 6/6 with spells that just generically are like, oh, also you can put a counter on a creature.
Opal
You're
Palace. The number of times I've died to Niv Mizzet, Opal Palace, 3 swings from your deck is like more than 4.
Round of applause, folks. Round of applause for me. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Niv Mizzet can be an alternate win condition. So if you're later in the game, you've knocked out an opponent, Niv Mizzet can finish the game. Nine Fingers Keen is just a 4/4, but you can make it larger. I mean, you can do things. It already has menace. If you want to play cards that are going to make it larger, you have that. Now, when you take a look at the high synergy cards here, they're identical to the other ones. Circuitous Route, open the gates, Gatecreeper Vine, Explore the Underdark, District Guide, Sylvan Scrying, Crop Rotation. They're all identical, but this one, Archelos, Lagoon Mystic, does make it into the top cards, which I am not surprised about. But Azusa Lost But Seeking, Oracle of Moldiah, cards like that are great. I think that this deck, and if I were to build it, I would fall back on a landfall strategy as opposed to just hard relying on Maze's End, which is what I'm doing personally. So you can add cards like Avenger of Zendikar, Rampaging Balos, and that's where your giant beaters come in. So even if you lose enough gates that you now have to find a regrowth or something to get it back from the graveyard, hopefully it didn't go to exile, you can say, fine, I'll beat you down with 18 4/4s.
Yeah, and I don't think let's just take a look a little bit at what you're losing. You're losing red and white. What does that give you in terms of your Gates Matters, Lands Matters? You're not going to get Gates Ablaze anymore in your Gates Matters for a board wipe, but who cares? You can play non-Gates Matters board wipe because you're in Sultai and you have access to. And because you're in blue green, you get to keep the Tatiovas, the Gretchen Titchwellas, Coiling Oracles. You get to keep those. Ramps. You get to keep the land ramps. You can run generic tutors in black.
I also like the idea of Zimone Quandrix Prodigy. It's in my deck, but I haven't played it. Zimone has pay 1. You can put a land from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. That's great. You get to keep the land ramp as well there. I'm not sure you lose a ton.
Isn't Into the Wilderness, is that what the card's called, from Throne of Eldraine? You exile cards on the top of your library and you can play an additional land.
I think that's Into the Wild.
Into the Wild.
Yeah, you don't no, it's not Into the Wilds. The card is Escape to the Wild.
Escape to the Wild.
So you exile the top 5. You can play cards from your library exiled this way until your next turn. You don't get that. There definitely are a few. You can't ramp out like basics like Dire Strain Rampage, which is green red. It doesn't ramp gates, but it does some work there.
So really the biggest downside, the one that we already talked about, is
the sheer number of gates.
Yeah,
which
9
is
less gates.
Truly stressful, I will say, because the number of times that you realize I have 1 in hand, I have 6 out, and someone has something that's really not working. Every time you have to mill or something, you go, please just don't be that second gate. That's all, or please just let me have enough mana to ramp out 2 or 3 more, because I'll keep this one in my hand and not play it so no one knows my strategy.
Now, if I were to pick an alternate strategy, I would pick something a lot more obscure. I want to try to take my opponent's turns for them and get them to target Nine Fingers Keen 4 times, so that they take 36 damage from the ward 9
Interesting.
life.
Okay, like Worst Fears and all the steel. Emrakul, you're going to drop an Emrakul.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How many times am I going to drop an Emrakul is the real question. How many times? I don't know how many times.
You're going to play it, you're going to turn it to your hand somehow. Yeah, who knows? I mean, it's all the times. Exactly. It's all the time. So I think it's cool. I like gates. I was very excited to talk about gates this week.
Yeah. Hey, you love this. You love this theme.
It's an alt win con, man.
And it's been around for a long time. We've always had the alt win con. I like playing gates, and there was a historic gates deck that I was playing around for and stuff. So I guess I do have a little bit of experience.
Gates is in Pioneer
with the Mazes End. That's, I guess, historic and Pioneer are very
they're
similar.
Kind of similar.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very cool. And there's some, obviously there's a lot of other commanders on here, and there's that one glaring commander at number 4 sitting on this list that no one can play anymore.
Yeah, unfortunately, Golos, I would say probably the undisputed best Gates commander, which is fine. It was very good. I never actually ran it as my Gates commander.
Mm-mm.
And then it did get banned. But on here you've also got Chromat, which was just a generic 5-color commander people used to use. A Togatog, Cody Vociferous Codex. There's even some on here for Cecily and Oathhelm if you wanted to do a Friends Forever pairing. Not many, but there are a lot. There actually are a lot of. There's 11,000 Mazes End decks on EDH. It's a really fun win condition.
Yeah, and I do see that Nine Fingers Keen and Archelios, in terms of the top 18 commanders for Mazes End, those are the only 2 that are not 5 colors. So that's Gates on hard mode, right?
Gates
there.
on hard mode. Gates on hard mode. Well, that's going to be it. We hope you enjoyed the trip through the gates, through the pearly gates. I see now what you said. You're like, wait,
dead.
Are we dying?
We're not dead.
No, we just went on a trip. That's going to be it this week. We hope you all build a Mazes End deck and then play it with us. It's actually super fun, and there's a really cool promo that has a different artwork for Mazes End that came out from release weekend, so pick that up. And if you want to chat with me some more, I'm on Twitter at Andy Flory.
And I'm on Twitter at Wormcoil Engine. And thank you so much for listening to this episode. Don't forget, if you're a patron, to catch us on Second Main, and we'll talk to you next week.
We'll call. Bye.